Hi, I'm Talia.
Hi, I'm Matthew.
And
we are the Critics. So, for our first video, we're going to be reviewing Star Wars A New Hope. Because let's face it, Star Wars The Force Awakens is basically A New Hope over again.
I think, I agree with you there. They used a lot of the same plot devices, etc. But I thought it was good nonetheless. I had fun watching it.
Yeah, I think we all liked it. I think it's just problematic that in a movie that's meant to be, that when it first came out, 4, 5, and 6, where it challenged so many things, to then when we now get Star Wars again, for the third time, we get the exact same plot. I think it makes me worry, because it's very clearly a trilogy. I mean, we're going to talk about that later. But it's worrying that, is the story going to be so predictable that it's going to be, plot-wise, a carbon copy for
4, 5, and 6,
yeah.
Basically a repeat of that. Well, as a fan, do you think that that's a big disadvantage? Did it affect how you felt when you watched it?
No, I think I liked it a lot. It was a bit strange, I think, was my first reaction. And then watching it for the second time, I liked it even more than the first time. I just think it just comes across as slightly lazy, is what it comes across as to me. And the problem with that is that...
Shots fired.
is that I'm just worried that I know what's going to happen in 8 and 9. In terms of plot. We're going to have a fall, and we're going to feel sad at the end of 8, and then at 9 everyone's going to be happy and we're going to have an Ewok party on some planet.
That took a lot of time. Wow, that was it, yeah.
So that's what I'm worried about, and I think that's what most people are worried about when it's so much the same.
What about this epic discussion that people have been having that, it's introduced Star Wars to a whole new generation? I don't know if I totally agree with that, with the way the movie was set out, or not complexity, but just the knowledge that you'd have to have.
Yeah, you definitely had to have watched 4, 5, and 6.
It sort of excluded
Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult for both of us to talk, because we both are fans to differing degrees of Star Wars.
Yeah.
But we both know Star Wars, and so I've spoken to some people that haven't watched it, that aren't Star Wars fans, and watched it, and they were completely confused, which I think is very fair. I think it requires you to know a lot. I think like a turning point is when you meet Han and Chewie. So if you didn't know who they were, you missed out on a lot.
Yeah.
I think Kylo Ren is just is even weirder, and even less. His motivation is even less clear if you don't know Star Wars. We'll get to him. If you don't know what that mask really means.
Yes.
But having said that, I think Star Wars can get away with it.
Yes, I agree with you, Dave. You brought up the mask, which is one of the reasons that I personally enjoy Star Wars. The mask, wherever can you see that? It's a pop culture phenomenon, and it's it changed the world of film. It changed the world of science fiction, and I'm by no way a hardcore science fiction fan, but I think it just changed the game completely. And I really think this whole pop culture of nostalgia that's been going on recently, whether it's music, fashion, or film, The Force Awakens film really played into that by throwing in references that you'd get if you watch the old films. You could call it fan service, I guess, but like you said, Star Wars is big enough to have the right to do that.
Yeah, I think if you haven't watched Star Wars before Force Awakens came out, you weren't likely to watch it when it did come out.
Yes, anyway, yeah.
So, I think Star Wars has a big enough fan to keep going. It may have excluded some. It may have hopefully made them want to figure out more. It's definitely left all of us completely confused with regards to some things and what's going to happen in different characters, which I think is nice. I think it's nice to have mystery again.
Yes, as you said when we discussed, it sort of knows that it's a trilogy.
Yeah.
And as much as we say that it used all plot devices, etc., it did certainly introduce some nice new fresh-faced characters for us to relate to. For example, Finn and Rey, sorry. Don't shoot me down for that. NG. Finn and Rey were such cool characters. I thought the actors really, did their best on just bringing the whole excitement and a sense of adventure to those characters. Obviously, as they've been called, the legacy players, Leia, Luke, and Han, and Chewie to a certain extent.
And R2D and C-3PO, who have now been in all 7 and look like they'll be in all 9, and I'm excited.
And they look just as young as ever. It was so great seeing them. It just brought back all those old feelings, whether you grew up in the 1970s era or whether you grew up in the 2000s when episodes 1 to 3 came on.
Yeah.
Kylo Ren, I don't know where to start. I think I'm in love. But yeah, I just thought he was such a complex, worthy villain of this franchise. They really seem to have worked hard on building up his sort of mystery and darkness. When he killed his father and stepped over to the dark side completely.
I love that moment. I think that was excellent because
it
needed to happen for 2 reasons. One, it needed to happen because we needed to know that important characters can die in this saga. It's too often we see films where you just know that because they're the main people, they're going to live till the end.
Yes,
so from that point of view, it had to happen. And secondly, because up until then, Kylo Ren is kind of just a whiny teenager.
Yes, emo Kylo Ren. Follow on Twitter.
Not sponsored. But at that point, it's very much we now have a pure evil character.
Yes.
We have someone who is just evil. We have someone who clearly isn't like Darth Vader was, like Anakin Skywalker was, battling with the concept of good versus evil.
He's evil.
He is just pure evil, and he's just going to get worse. And that's a perfect foil to our heroes. One of Finn, who was having this like traitor versus is that all that I am about in this movie, and then coming to picking a side and not running away at the end, and then a really mysterious Rey.
She's inherently a good.
Yeah, inherently good. Someone who we don't know the full extent of her powers are, and I think that is wonderful. I think it sets us up because if we're following 4, 5, and 6, I think it sets us up for the inevitable fall. And I think that when we see the conflict between a very powerful Kylo Ren, who still fights after having several shots and parts of his body almost taken off.
He's got a scar now.
And now he has a scar. He's got the family tradition. He killed his father. There issues there.
He went psychotic straight after that.
Yeah. So he's definitely got the Skywalker genes, and we see all of that, and so we have a perfect matchup between the two. Someone whose power we don't know the limits of, someone who we all are in the corner of and want to and are very clearly wanting to support, against someone who killed Han Solo, who we all now hate as much as you love him. But yeah, and that brings back to the point that you made earlier, that it knows it's a trilogy.
Yes.
If we don't get payoff by the end of 9, we're all going to be immensely annoyed, and we can come back and redo this review and be like, awful character setup. But I think it's fine that it's not. And I think importantly, the problem with so many people complaining is because, and this is my problem with so many superhero movies, is that we're used to, as a viewing audience, having origin stories that told us absolutely everything.
We sort of get spoon-fed with the Marvel, I'm mentioning Marvel, the Marvel series that come out now. It's very basic, in my opinion.
And DC and Sony, who gives us a new origin story for Spider-Man all the time. So we're used to that. We're used to the character. We're used to knowing exactly what the character thinks, feels, how they're going to interact, what they're going to do. And I think it's good that we don't. I think we have a movie that knows it's a trilogy, that's acting like it's a trilogy, and acting like a good trilogy, because we haven't had a good trilogy in far too long.
They've left so many doors open with Supreme Leader Snoke, who we think is going to be tiny.
Yeah, I really want him to be small.
With Kylo Ren, with Rey's origins, with Luke coming back.
Yeah. There's
just so much more to explore, and I think I'm really excited.
I'm excited. The other thing I want to talk about is George Lucas.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So, obviously we're all happy that he left, because 1, 2, and 3 weren't most people's favourites.
Yes.
But he told us that they weren't going to be good. And I think the interesting thing here is I left the movie, and when I thought about it a lot, I don't know if it pushed the boundaries in the same way that 4, 5, and 6 did. Or at least that 4 did when it first came out. George, he says he's a visual director. He said that he didn't do 1, 2, and 3 before because he didn't like the story. He thought the story was going to be a bit less exciting in 4, 5, 6. I think we can all agree on that. But he pushed it each time. When he was filming 4 and 5 and 6, he completely changed the movie industry.
Yes.
When he filmed 1, 2, and 3, he tried to do the same thing. He pushed CGI further than it was. He filmed it digitally when no one else was filming as much using digital cameras as much as he was. And I don't know if we get that now.
So what you're saying is you don't think that this trilogy 7, 8, 9 is going to be a Matrix or an Avatar?
I mean,
sort of
just
groundbreaking.
Exactly. And Avatar's a good thing to compare it to because I mean it's recently overtaken it in finance reasons.
We came to Avatar. Great.
But I think Avatar broke more ground.
Definitely.
In terms of filmmaking.
In terms of filmmaking, the
again, it was
used.
it was gone with.
But I gotta say,
same
despite those concerns, which are very valid, I think that I'm excited that someone like J.J. Abrams is at the helm of the whole thing. I mean, he's currently got his grip on the 2 major science fiction franchises in the world, with Star Trek as well, and he's done films like Armageddon, which I think was quite a groundbreaking film in itself.
Sure.
So maybe let's give him a chance and see where he takes it. I mean, yeah, CGI is like on a whole new level now. It's hard to sort of come up with.
Yeah, it's hard to be groundbreakers, but the question is like that's because we're not groundbreakers.
Yeah.
George Lucas, for better or worse, was.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm sad if we lost that.
Yeah.
Maybe this is going to be reminded for, as you said earlier, the retroness, going back to
nostalgia,
going back to old techniques and perfecting them and using two in harmony, and maybe it's been done elsewhere.
Tying into that, the music and editing was amazing. For me personally, the editing was so cool. The way they sort of used that swipe on, swipe off technique that they had used in 4, 5, 6. And obviously the beginning credits where you sort of get the whole story, wiping off the screen, and it just gave you that nice feeling of nostalgia. Also the music, I mean, John Williams, can we just have a moment of silence for the epicness of him? It was great. I mean, you got that feeling once again nostalgia, and also he tied in the new pieces that he's using for the new characters perfectly with the old score. With him, you just sort of know when the villain is going to come on screen. You know when the good guys are going to come on screen. You know when you're supposed to feel triumphant, when you're supposed to feel sad.
Yes, when Rey caught the lightsaber from Kylo Ren, and the music, and happiness. No, it was, and then it bled so well into new music.
Yes.
That still had the Star Wars feel, but wasn't a carbon copy. Wasn't the exact same.
Exactly.
Even though when she caught it was the same, and all of the fans were like, yes, amazing. And then it became something of its own. No, I'm with you. It was really cool, and I think that was the thing the whole way through. It was a really good mash of old and new. I think the movie was beginning to feel a bit weird, and then we got Han and Chewie, and then I don't know.
I think the word to use is seamless. It was quite a seamless transition.
Yeah.
Despite the use of old fat devices, etc., it was quite a seamless transition.
Yeah.
And if you had fun watching it and you were like holding onto your seat, which I was, especially when Kylo Ren took off that mask, that hair. Anyway, it was. It's
also just nice to have a Star Wars movie that we can like and talk about again. And
laugh at as well.
And
the comedy devices were great.
Yeah.
Really good.
I just feel bad that I might be liking BB-8 more than R2-D2.
Don't. Tracy. Epic gun.
Okay. So out of 2 thumbs up, or 2 thumbs down, or middle-ish, or which way are we going?
I give it.
Yeah. No. We are massive fans of Star Wars: Force Awakens. So if you like it, subscribe. We're hoping to put out more, but otherwise, thanks.
Thanks for watching, guys.